All right, so here is the update for this week. I think this is number 4. So what I was able to do, I just made sure I went back. I was like, there has to be another way to get OpenCV installed. Oh, I don't need these. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that getting OpenCV was actually installed on my computer. So I ended up finding that OpenCV on Windows is actually something different. Like there's a super easy way to get that installed. And it's really different versus I think I spent almost 1 to 2 hours just trying to go through, follow the steps, and build the application from source code. I've never done it before. I don't know if it completely worked like how they wanted. And everybody I saw said it, you don't have to do that. There's an easier way. And no one actually pointed exactly what it is that you have to do. So I ended up having to go over the internet and everything. And I ended up finding this line right here. So this is what I needed to get OpenCV installed on my computer, which helped me out a lot. Like you cannot understand how much this helped me out a lot. So now I could go through some of the tutorials, start seeing line by line and how it actually affected how it worked and how the program or the script, whatever however you want to call it, actually works. So I'm going through each one of those and dissecting and trying to figure out what everything actually really means at this point. So next time I can hopefully make it by myself. So that's the first thing I ended up doing over the past week. The second thing, which was a really, really nice thing that I was able to find out, was I ended up making my own GitHub. So I have a whole bunch of different things in here. A couple of these things I had from my previous GitHub account that I can't get into anymore because I had two-factor authentication on that account. I don't have a way to get on that phone anymore because that was an old phone I had. And I've gone through probably 2 phones since then. So it's gone and I don't have the recovery keys. So I ended up calling up or contacting GitHub support, trying to get their help to help me get into this account or get into that other account. And they said, well, I can't help you because two-factor authentication doesn't let me get in there. And I know you're giving me the right answers, but it's still locked by two-factor authentication. I can't get you in there. He said, but what I can do is create a new account, fork over those projects over to this new account, and I can make any changes I want on this, and it's going to act exactly like I created those projects themselves, like those repositories, on this account, which that's fine. It's definitely what I want to do. So a lot of these things were made quite a long time ago because there's different products out there right now that different companies use that actually do the same thing. This one in the upper right hand corner, hopefully you can see this. Oh, it's not the right one. Yep, my mouse is actually in there. Single PC audit. So what this will actually do is it'll go through, it'll identify the hardware on that particular computer, go through, see what the NIC settings are set at, see what kind of monitors configured up to it, and actually go through and see what programs are actually installed on that computer. I know I used Kaseya at one point. Kaseya does exactly the same thing. There, at my last job, they were using a different product. I can't remember what it was right now. I really can't remember what it was right now. Landsweeper? Something. I can't remember exactly. Where it did the same exact thing too. You could actually not only do it for one computer, you could do it for a whole batch of computers. Everything was nailed down by a SQL query that you had to initiate on the server itself. So that was really cool. A lot of times, like, you didn't need all that information, so you could filter out in your report exactly what you needed, and that's what became complicated. Because I think the main thing for why it was complicated for me was because I don't know SQL. So to create those search queries, I was piggybacking and using everybody else's knowledge. I was constantly YouTubing, or not YouTubing, but Googling to try to find the right answer for those. And sometimes I didn't even find them. And I just narrowed it down by some other means of filtering inside the application itself. Another thing we could do here was PowerShell using a printer search. So it would go out there, and I can't remember if this was on each different computer or if it was run off the... Oh, that didn't copy everything over. So it created a CSV file to compare printers located on a domain attached to the name, IP address, whether it was on or off. Nice to have to know its MAC address. Yeah, it was really good to actually have the MAC address of the printer itself. I think that's what that script was actually for. It was a long time ago. It was a very, very long time ago. Yeah. I don't think I finished that up on the computer I was on at the time, but I did have that completed. But anymore, I don't see how that's valuable, since like you have like those programs like Dell has an application where it inventories everything within your environment, and like I said, Kaseya has the same thing. So another thing I ran into a lot, and this was before I knew of Windirstat, which is a free Windows application. So what this PowerShell script would actually do is it would go through each computer, or it would go through the computer that it's run on. It would find and identify any large file and or folder at that point. I think it was programmed to return the last 5 of each. So you could kind of identify and say, hey, why is this folder full of a whole bunch of videos that are not really work related? Maybe I should get rid of that to make the C drive run a little bit faster and the computer run faster overall, because it's not loading all that stuff into memory. Because Windows does go into the user profile that's actually getting logged into, and it loads all the stuff up under that profile. So anything that's on the desktop, anything that's in my documents, anything that's in my downloads folder, all that stuff is actually getting shoved into memory. So if somebody likes to save tons of stuff to their desktop, that's bad. That's very, 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 very bad, because it's loading that into memory to be a little bit faster to get to every single time. If you end up making a folder, like let's say on the C drive, directly on the C drive, of shortcuts that are created on the desktop that are pointing and redirecting into the C drive, the shortcut itself does not take up any. It does take up a small amount of space, but it's not going to impact your computer to make it slow to start up all the time. So that's my thought, and that's the direction I was going with on that. But like I said, Windirstat, free software utility, it pretty much does the same thing. I would probably use Windirstat over this right here, because Windirstat actually comes in a GUI. This actually comes in a command line report results. So That's my preference. That's what I would do. Another thing that I put in here was get services. So I think that was really simple, actually. It was a really simple thing. Can we get inside there? So yeah, one thing I was noticing was back when I wrote this, there was a couple services across some of the different computers that were set to either auto, manual, or disabled. And nothing was set the same way ever. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to use this as a way to start comparing from one computer to another computer. I think let's move that back a little bit so that if I found an issue with one computer, I can go to the next computer and see if the services were all set up correctly. This will actually display and actually tell you pretty fast whether there was any modification to any of the services, which that could cause your issue on why you're actually there in the first place, or if everything matched up and it's something else. So that was my point. That's what I was trying to do. So I don't know. I still see value behind this, but I think it's a situational anymore. Very situational. There, like I said, there might be another like server-based product that actually does this a little bit better than what I was doing. So another thing that I was doing. So that's all four of the ones I copied over. Oh, this one too. So I can't remember what the difference was between this and the single computer. To find users that are not connected to the domain in X number of days. Oh, this was one of the tasks I was tasked with at one of my previous jobs was to go through Active Directory and identify all the different accounts that have not been logged into in 30 days, let me change that. So it was 30 days, 45 days, and 60 days. So 30 days, if they weren't logged into, we would disable those accounts. 45 days, we would disable, or I can't remember what we did for what, but I know 60 days we were definitely deleting the accounts at that point. Hopefully it never came to that point. There was one or two that actually did, and I was at that employer for about 2 years. And it only happened like once or twice that there was somebody that was on there for 60 days. Granted, like each one of those marks, the 60 day or the 30 days, 45 days, and 60 days, there's going to be a report that's actually going to be generated. It's going to go out to the managers. The managers have to vouch for if that's a person or not, and usually something will be taken care of before then. Like I said, sometimes people slip through the cracks. So was there a termination form sent for a particular person? No, because somebody got busy. Humans happen. People happen. So does everything get done like it's supposed to? No, but this was the checks, and this is the extra checks and balances that was done to make sure that people were staying on top of their game, that they were doing what they were supposed to, and not leaving security holes open for the next person over, or even the company as a whole. So one thing in here, let's open this up. So we're going to get to that in a second. Here's my two things I created on here. So the apartment parking, I made that as a task in here that I want to, or repository that I want to get to and see to the end, where I can actually identify different people that are parking in our lots and see why are they parking in my parking spot. Like, why do I have to walk from 4 or 5 buildings over just to get to my apartment? It's during the summertime out here right now, and it's kind of hot to walk that distance. And if I went in to Walmart, for example, and I ended up getting groceries on my way back to my apartment, walking 5 or 6 apartment buildings just to get to my apartment building is going to suck. And I hope I got all the cold stuff that needs to be cold and needs to be put in the fridge the first trip. If not, something's probably going to start melting, or who knows. Like, frozen stuff doesn't like to be warmed up unless it's going to be eaten. So another thing that I was going to do was I was going to set up a web monitor application to hopefully this isn't, I don't think this is bad in any way. What I want to do is I want to use YOLO to actually identify cars that are streaming by when the bus that runs outside of the school bus is running outside of my window, and people are like running down the road. They don't care even if that stop sign's open. They're just racing down the road. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's illegal. Like, you're not supposed to do that because kids, man. You shouldn't do that for kids. So I just want to be able to see if I can write something up that's actually going to be able to identify cars. And yeah, that's all I want to do is just identify cars and see if there's a trend on one person that's constantly doing that all the time. That's all I want to do. So that's the other project I have in here. The last thing of the GitHub section I want to talk about is I made a GitHub page. So as you can see on here, it says HTML. I just created it about 6 hours ago. That's when I figured out how to do this, to be honest, from the time I'm recording this. So if we come over here, this is actually the URL right here. So if you type in cam718.github.io, you actually go directly to my webpage, which is right here. I'm not a master coder. Ever have I let on that I'm a master coder. So this is actually created with basic HTML. I need to go through here and I need to figure out basic HTML, if not a little bit more HTML, so that it looks pretty for everybody. Because this is what I want to start doing and start going through and updating for everybody. Okay, so now that we have that, that's the second thing I did. So the next thing I did was I set up MotioneyeOS on one of my spare Raspberry Pis. Unfortunately, I don't think I have one of those set up right now. It's not turned on, but that Raspberry Pi I have, it has the Raspberry Pi camera that's actually attached to it. I still need to figure out the focus on that little lens there, because right now it's all a blurry mess. It really is a blurry mess. So I need to see what kind of resolution I can actually get out of that. If I can't get a good resolution out of that, then I need to start looking at getting an external camera for that Raspberry Pi to start using. So let's go back and talk about what MotioneyeOS actually is. So as you can see right here, it says it's a Linux distribution that turns a single board computer into a video surveillance system. So that means that I can use a Raspberry Pi to actually work as a motion sensor to actually record who or what actually passed in front of it. I think this goes into a little bit of the thing before right here, where we were talking about the web video monitor right there. The cool thing about this is I can actually access this from a web page. It's really cool that I can do that. Plus, you configure it through a web page. The hard part was I wanted to have it work off Wi-Fi, so I had to get that configured to my Wi-Fi network first. But you have to do that before the Raspberry Pi actually starts up. Otherwise, it's looking and demanding that it has an Ethernet cable connected to it. Otherwise, it keeps on boot looping over and over and over again. So I had to do that. I had to set up a configuration file to actually recognize the wireless plus the password, and it disappears after that. It's actually in the OS at that point. And then I could use it without having an Ethernet cable plugged into it, which that's what I have right now. Just the only problem is the lens on the camera right now. I have to fix that. I have to figure out what's going on with that. So this is the web interface. People use it for different things. This person, I have no idea. Is that a flower? A jug in flowers? I have no idea. So I know it's a horrible picture, but it's the best I could find from Google Images. So there's another picture in here. So maybe this person had people breaking into a window or something. I don't know. So they wanted to have, or birds flying into it repeatedly. I've had that happen before. So let's look at this other one. So this guy is standing in front of the MotioneyeOS computer that he had set up on this too. The one thing I haven't been able to find out is changing the host name. This is the host name right here for the Raspberry Pi. I know there's a way to change it. I just haven't done it yet, honestly. There will be a time that I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to do it. I know it's something with the command line if you have to putty into it. But right now I think that's like the low hanging fruit, or it's not even on the radar right now. So those are the three things that I worked on over this past week. If you don't think that they have anything to do with AI, you're not thinking hard enough. So the opencv thing actually goes into AI image recognition or motion recognition. It's going to recognize something. So that was actually good for me to actually get figured out at that point. The GitHub, well, I pretty much need that to start working. There's going to be some things that I'm going to be working on that I'm not going to tell you guys that, I'm going to use there's a NAS that I have here at my place that I'm going to use that as like the GitHub equivalent that I can store everything off there. But there's definitely some things I don't want to put up here for everybody to look at. But most of the things are going to be up here. So the web page itself, that is definitely something else I'm going to have up here for everybody to see and track my progress. The MotioneyeOS or iOS application, I think what I want to do is I want to take the video from that and actually identify like different people and different things that actually occur around. Like I said, this is probably going to be what I'm going to use to actually monitor the street whenever everybody passes by. I'm going to use this in conjunction with YOLO, so you only look once, to identify. Let's come over here. There's a video. I know there's a video for this. Yeah. So there's image recognition for, let's see this guy.
Writing.
He's on TED. Skip the ads. Let's go over here. So he has different animals right up here, and it draws bounding boxes around different things that it identified. So that's a dog, that's an eye, it's a ball. So we're going to see this in a second, that it ends up identifying all these different stuffed animals that are actually on a podium right next to him. And he's running this all off of a camera that's connected into his laptop. So a lot of these are actually identifying that they're people. Some are identifying that they're stop signs. Some are identifying that it's a tie. But for the most part, it looks like it's identifying people. And it's doing this in real time. It's not doing this off of a video or a saved file or an image at this point. It's doing this in real time. So this is what I want to actually do. You can also do it on video files, which that's what I want to get into. But the main thing is video files. I think one of the main things is OpenCV. It's actually going to help me do image processing on streaming video through a web page to do what I want to do. Like one of the projects when I first started this was that I overheard another manager that said people have to be watching the live stream to make sure that it's broadcasting and there's sound that's actually going through over the web for everybody at home to watch. It would be much easier to have a computer actually do that. So with OpenCV and YOLO and I think TensorFlow too, I can do that. I can set that up, but it's just gonna take a little bit more time and a little bit more understanding of everything that's involved to get to that point. But that's definitely in my head. That's definitely something I want to figure out within a year from when I first started this. There's still time. I can do it. So hopefully, I forgot to credit this guy because I know that was a thing over at my last job. So this was a TED Talk. It was Joseph Redman. I'll put a link to this in the description below. And it was a pretty good TED Talk that he had going on, and it helped get me interested in AI at the same time because I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. So I think that's it. The main thing I want to try to accomplish this upcoming week is I want to go through and I want to start taking some of the Suraj Raval classes and start seeing his path, his course that he laid out for everybody to go through. He says that each week consists of 2 hours of study time per week. I have more time than that throughout the week, so I want to see how fast I can actually get that done also, because I don't want to be studying for like 6 months, like half a year. I think that's way too long to get to the point that I want to be at. So until next time, bye.